Texans very much in the mix of the playoffs. 13 weeks in, they find themselves 7-5. They're tied with three other teams at 7-5. But now, following Monday Night Football, things could be getting a hell of a lot more interesting for the Texans. Trevor Lawrence goes down with an injury. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610. Let's just bring on Cody Stutes here as we wrap up what's gone on in Week 13. Been kind of a little bit of a cluster, not going to lie. The daddy duty solo makes things a little bit more difficult. Shout out to all the single moms out there and the pops. Your biggest takeaway, though, from Week 13, starting with the Trevor Lawrence injury, and Adam Schefter is reporting that it's an ankle sprain. Now, that could mean anything from 1 week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. There's all kinds of levels of ankle sprain. But I would even say this from a Jags perspective, that's about as good a news as you could have hoped for. And I know that's easy for, someone to say that's not having to go through it. But if you saw that, you anticipated the worst if you were a Jags fan.
Well, like the great rapper Drake says, a sprained ankle ain't nothing to play with. So I don't expect him to be playing until he's, 50% or better. I mean, he acted like he died. I mean, how many times have we seen a guy throw the helmet and it just be a sprained ankle? I mean, most of the time when guys are throwing the helmet, punching the turf and stuff,
I didn't want to call him before the test got done, Paul Pierce, but I mean, sprained ankle is something. I mean, I've torn tendons in my ankle to where it swells up like a softball, sprained ankle, all that. That looked like a little bit more serious, but maybe he was just frustrated that he had to leave a game. Who knows? And something you guys do this on the show, something nobody's talking about. Their left tackle got hurt, like who's already their backup left tackle. So it's like, I mean, their offensive line's taking a beating. Not everybody's going to survive the offensive line taking a beating like the Texans have. And so Jacksonville in serious trouble in the next few weeks without Lawrence. But you've been on this for a couple weeks now. They might be in trouble with Lawrence. Like that is not a complete and well put together team. Well, here's my thing. Tonight was an opportunity for Jacksonville to where if you win this game, you're right there up there with the elite. I think they might have even been able to be at the tippity top.
They'd have been the top seed if they won
with a dub. And they've been flirting with being elite. And it just, for whatever reason, I guess if you're a Jags fan, you can convince yourself that hell, who knows what's going on out there. They were convinced themselves Florida State could somehow win a playoff game. So it probably wouldn't be hard to convince yourself that you were going to win this game with Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know that they were. And quite frankly, I think they were almost lucky to be in the game. Trevor Lawrence threw what should have been an interception in the end zone, ends up getting deflected into the hands of the receiver. I don't even know that he was inbounds. The initial call was inbounds. They gave it to him. And when he hurt his ankle, the very next play, I think it was a field goal. They missed the field goal. Cincinnati goes down, and then the Jags tie it. So it was a sloppy performance by a flawed Jags team to begin with. Do I think the Jags are perhaps the best team in the AFC South? Yes. But at this point, you should be, if you're Jacksonville, you should be trying to separate yourselves from the Texans tier. And I don't know that there was much separation. There was an opportunity today to at least have the separation, and they didn't take advantage of it with Trevor Lawrence. And without Trevor Lawrence, I don't know how much trouble they're in. But I could see them finding ways to win games. They do have a lot of talent, skill position wise. Maybe they lean on Etienne and their backs a little bit more. And, there's a little bit more intermediate stuff. We saw Ingram do his thing. We saw Ridley doing his thing, and Kirk. They got some weapons, but they don't have an elite defense. This isn't Cleveland where, you have a championship caliber defense. It's a Jacksonville team that has a lot of skill position talent, and even with their quarterback, they're a flawed squad. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. This does seem like an injury that will linger, especially when you factor in that he has the hurt knee too. I know they were talking about the knee just now getting healthy. I'll be surprised if Trevor Lawrence plays this week, and then we'll just keep an eye on it. But the sprained ankle. With all that said, this is a Texans stream. You cover the Texans. I cover the Texans. I'm on Sports Radio 610, 10 to 2 Central in Houston. If this is just a sprained ankle, we'll obviously talk about opportunity during this 30 minutes or whatever that we do the post week wrap. But I'm happy that it's just a sprained ankle, and the sooner Trevor Lawrence gets back on the football field, the better, regardless.
I mean, I'm fine with him missing time. It works for me. The Browns and the Ravens are their next 2 games. He misses both those games. I mean, the Browns, who knows? That thing's a dumpster fire. But they're not beating the Ravens without Trevor Lawrence. So they go 1-2. Here's the thing about the Texans. Like, if you're a Texans fan, you're thinking AFC South's back on the table. Because you'd have been the AFC South leader if you beat Jacksonville. You didn't, and they put some significant distance between you by getting that win. You still need to make sure you don't tie them, because they're beating you in the second and third tiebreakers for division decider right now. And you're not going to catch them in either of those tiebreakers. You can't catch them in the divisional wins to pass them, and you're probably not catching them on common opponents either. So, as much as we want to think that the division's back on the table, you need a lot of help from other teams playing Jacksonville. And then you've still got to take care of your business if you're the Texans. And, D'Amico Ryans has been pretty good about putting the blockers on and saying, we're not worried about that, worried about us, worried about, what we got, yada, yada. And that's fine. That's his job. Our job is to talk about the big picture here. And if you want to get back in the AFC South hunt, you need some help. Like, it's not just like, oh, there's the one you needed. No, you need probably 2 more on the Jaguars schedule on top of take care of all your own business.
No doubt. And the Texans got the Jets this week. We'll get into kind of the mess that is the Jets here. It's going to be a briefer wrap up, 30 minutes. Normally go 30 to an hour, but I got Cody Stutes with me here. Tell the people where they can find your work. You're at practice every day. Let the people know that.
www.houfootball.com is where you get my Houston football, my writing on the team. And Tuesdays is Stroud's Significant 7, so CJ's 7 biggest plays from the game. So we'll break that down on the website tomorrow, and then right here on YouTube as well. Just search my name. You'll find all the stuff on there. I think I'm the only Cody Stutes on YouTube. And if not, I'm at least the most popular one. So you can find him by just searching the name.
So the state of the NFL through week 13, we have 12 teams with a winning record. We do this all the time. 12 teams. Texans, one of those. Jags, one of those. We have 12 teams with a losing record, which means we have 8 teams with Cincinnati winning. We have 8 teams at 6-6, which is crazy. So 12, 12, 8. Don't sit there and try to do math like I did something wrong. No, I did it right. 12, 12, 8. I can read your face. I know what you're trying to do right there, Cody.
No, I was surprised to see the Bills in 11th place in the playoffs in the AFC. They're one of those 500 teams. 11th place.
It's very wild. We have the Zach Wilson drama in New York. What is going on here? And this is another thing. You have the Aaron Rodgers injury and you have the Zach Wilson drama in New York. I'm not going to try to leave you out to dry in a second, but can you just talk about this for a sec? The baby is crying. This is on the go. I'm going to grab the baby and bring the baby in here, and she'll probably shut up. So what is your take on all this Zach Wilson thing? I'll be right back. Thanks for being in the locker room.
So here's one of the funniest parts about the Zach Wilson conversation is we're at Texans today. We're talking to Texans players, and we're talking to Jonathan Grenard. And Grenard's asked a question about, hey, which quarterback do you think they're going to play? Because they played Wilson a couple weeks ago, played Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian got some action. And as he's talking about which quarterback it's going to be, it doesn't matter, things like that, I read the report from The Athletic that the Jets would like Zach Wilson to take the starting job back over, but Wilson is hesitant to take the starting job back over. And it was just hilarious. Grenard walks away. We all start talking about the fact that the Jets wanted Zach Wilson to go back starting, and apparently, according to the Athletic, he doesn't want to start again for them. He doesn't want to go back to playing again for them. Later, there's another report that Zach Wilson would start and play for the Jets if asked directly. So it's like some high school drama between the Jets and Zach Wilson. And, well, she told me that she likes you. And it's just high school drama between a team that has just fallen apart. And then Robert Saleh goes to the podium and says, well, Zach wouldn't be here if he didn't want to start or he didn't want to play. And it's like, dude, this report doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's not just one reporter. It's two reporters reporting together for The Athletic that he doesn't want to start for you again. And all I could think about was Brock Osweiler not wanting to go back in the game for the Texans a few years ago, and the rumors of he and OB having it out in the locker room about that. And it just, what a disaster that team has become. And to let it get to the point where it would even be talked about that a player is going to tell the coach, no, I'm not starting again. And that player being Zach Wilson, who's earned nothing in the NFL. Nothing.
This is going to be, and it's been very entertaining watching the Jets lately. But this, if I'm a Jets fan, and I'm not going to sit here and throw shade on the Jets after, too much shade on the Jets after 12 games of decent football in Houston, because it can come tumbling down quickly. But this has to be, if I'm a Jets fan, like if I'm localizing it and I'm in New York and I'm watching this squad. This to me would be the most painful watch of the season. And the reason is this. You have what I think, and I'm a Robert Saleh guy. I like Robert Saleh a lot. But I do think that it's kind of a bad look for him that a guy that he has pounded the table for reportedly is not interested in going back on the football field for him during this season. So I think it's a bad look for him. I also think there's been some other things that he's done and basically neutered himself for Aaron Rodgers, basically letting Aaron Rodgers come over and basically run the team, saying that, players coach the team and all that type of stuff. And to a certain point, he might be right. But the point I'm making is you have a guy from the Kyle Shanahan tree that took the same path. And I think D'Amico Ryans is a better version of Robert Saleh. At the very least, even if Robert Saleh is a good coach, I think D'Amico is a better version of Robert Saleh. You also have a look at when a number 2 overall pick at quarterback goes right. And that's what they hoped would happen with Zach Wilson. And you have CJ Stroud doing his thing on top of all the pain that they've gone through and stuff. So you also have Sauce and Stingley. And that was kind of something that Jets fans really wanted to engage in last year. But right now, the last few weeks, Derek Stingley's been the better player, and Derek Stingley's playing at a high level too. So that was something else that you really hung your hat on. So I'll be out there. I'm excited for it. But if I'm a Jets fan, this has to be like one of the more painful watches. And hell, you're talking about a season in which this is probably the second most. Obviously, watching Aaron Rodgers come out of the tunnel, WWE style, WrestleMania entrance style, and then getting hurt, 2 passing plays and 4 plays in was the most painful. But this has to be the second most painful for Jets fans, right?
Well, and they've gone through every iteration of the quarterback spot that's possible, from giving Wilson time and giving him more time than maybe most people were comfortable with, to go into Tim Boyle, who's only there because Aaron Rodgers wanted him to be there, to that guy stinks, he shouldn't be the backup, and then going to Trevor Siemian. Like, there's nowhere left to turn. Like, there's not another unknown that you can go to. They clearly don't feel good enough about any of these free agents to go and sign one of those guys. And at this point, what does it get you? What do you do? Even if you do sign one of those free agents, it's just fallen apart in New York. And in large part, it's fallen apart because they put everything together for Aaron Rodgers. Because, look at some of the teams across the league.
Pittsburgh.
That have legitimate backups. And then, even if they don't have a legitimate backup, look at some of the teams across the league that have made it work for even a short amount of time with a backup quarterback. Think about the offensive minds that do it. We saw it tonight. Zach Taylor's a great offensive mind. There's not really any debate about that. He takes care of Joe Burrow, gets him to the level that he's at, works with Burrow to get him to the level. I don't want to sit here and act like Taylor's the reason. But then on a Monday night on the road with Jake Browning, who wasn't good in college, he goes out there and has that performance. You think about Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. Josh Dobbs didn't know the plays. O'Connell's telling him what to do in the headset before the game. Well, guess who the offensive mind is in New York? It's Nathaniel Hackett, who ran one of the worst teams in football last year and ran one of the worst offenses in football last year, has never been thought of as a well-thought offensive mind, and they handed the entire offense to him. Like, think about, like, I'm not sitting here acting like Bobby Slowick's been perfect, but my God, Bobby Slowick looks like Bill Walsh compared to Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, it's not even close. And I mean, it was a disastrous job. And let's be honest, the only reason he's there is because Aaron Rodgers co-signed him. That's it. So they've put that. So that's one break for the Texans. Another break for the Texans if we're looking ahead. And again, this is misfortune. It looks like Jeffrey Simmons isn't going to be on the field in 2 weeks, which I don't know about you. I was looking at that Titans game, and that was really my only concern was Jeffrey Simmons against that offensive line. Jeffrey Simmons might miss both. He's definitely not going to be rocking the Oilers uniforms when they take on the Texans. So the Texans right now, I know the Tank Dell thing sucks, and who knows how they replace Tank Dell. The Texans are getting breaks to where this playoff cluster that they're in, the Texans 7-5 playoff cluster with Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Indianapolis. You got to win your games. You're not going to go against arguably the best player in the AFC South. You're not going to go against who knows what quarterback you're going to go against. The one that you would go against that's not worth a damn to begin with, he's throwing a fit. I saw someone earlier said that my little baby daughter was doing a Zach Wilson impression when she was just adding some production value. But then you don't got Jeffrey Simmons. So this thing's kind of laying out decently for the Texans to where you control what you can control, but what they don't control, it's laying out. They're getting decent draw down the stretch here.
Yeah, the luck is starting to fall into place. I mean, you think about not just what you had, not just what you have coming up, but the past few weeks. I mean, Kyler coming into Houston in his second game back from the injury, he clearly tried to work some kinks out here and trying to figure out what he's still doing there. You think about the advantage that you had in Cincinnati, where they had the injuries in that game, where they were missing one of their defensive linemen. They were missing T. Higgins because he got hurt that week. And then you talked about it coming up. I mean, the Jets, whatever, the quarterback situation with Simmons is to me, I mean, I don't know exactly where he stacks up. He's easily a top 5, top 4 defensive tackle. I agree with you. He's the best player in the AFC South. He's a monster. He's the type of guy that could win the football game for them and not have him on the field.
We've seen it. We've seen it. Remember when he came back, I think it was his first NFL game, if I'm not mistaken. He had the deflected pass against Deshaun Watson in the I think it was in the red zone. I want to say it was at the goal line.
And I know Mike Vrabel said today that he's fine, but Derrick Henry had a concussion, and I'm not believing that Derrick Henry's fine until he's on the practice field Wednesday. And who knows how long concussions linger? Who knows if he could get the bell rerung on Sunday ahead of playing you? So, like, the injury luck for the opponents is starting to shape up for you, but you got to take care of your business. I mean, you start looking ahead to Tennessee and Cleveland and all this. It's a good Jets defense. Like, their offense is a joke. It's probably the worst offense in football.
They got some players, though. They got some players. That's what's even more alarming about it for me is that they got some players like that. Like Breece Hall's a good player. Garrett Wilson could potentially be an elite player.
Yeah,
they got some good players.
Yeah, they got some good players. They can't get them the ball. They can't get them the ball, but that defense is nothing to joke about, nothing to sneeze about. I mean,
it's borderline championship caliber D.
I mean, it's an incredible defense. They bring a lot of heat off the edge with guys that aren't household names. Obviously, Quinnen Williams in the middle is very good at what he does. I mean, he's as good as Jeffrey Simmons, if not better, depending on who you talk to. And then they've got a pretty solid linebacker core in secondary. So
look at this comment. Come on, man. Let's be serious, please.
Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons is better than Larry Tunsil.
Yeah, let's cut that down a little bit, please. Please.
So you got to be ready for this Jets team to just basically throw the kitchen sink at you from an offensive standpoint. And if you had Tank Dell that put some pressure on them, like, put pressure on the opposing defense. Like, I feel a lot better about this one, but for all the weeks to try to figure out what to do with Tank Dell's absence, like, yes, I understand he missed a game earlier this year, but like to figure out what to do with Tank Dell's absence, like this is not the defense I would want to play, try to figure it out new stuff on offense.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. They got to handle their business. The 7-5 cluster. It is the Texans.
Can I explain the playoff tiebreaker thing that the people have asked about?
A lot of people asking about the Pittsburgh situation, how Pittsburgh lost to the Texans and they're ahead of them.
So the tiebreaker scenarios are slightly different when it's a tiebreaker in division and it's a tiebreaker for the wild card. And it's very different when there's multiple teams or when there's more than 2 teams involved. So right now there's 4 teams involved. The very first thing that happens is the divisional tiebreakers apply. And right now the Colts have a divisional tiebreaker over you, which is the head-to-head record. Obviously, you beat them at the end of the year, take care of some of your other business in the AFC South. They won't have that anymore. But you're eliminated from the start because of the divisional tiebreaker that the Colts have. So you're out of the tiebreaker scenario because of that. Then it goes in.
Don't worry about it till later on.
Right.
It'll shape up.
Well, not this week, but the following week, the Colts play the Steelers. So someone's taken a loss that's ahead of you if they stay ahead of you. Like if both those teams win, they stay ahead of you. Someone's taken a loss that's ahead of you, not this week, but next week. So again, you start looking, you start paying attention, you start thinking, it's all still Texans take care of all their own business and they're in. Like winning out Texans, they're not kept out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and the division, what are you looking at this division? If you win the next 2 weeks, then it's hard for me to imagine Jacksonville winning both times. And then you're tied, but you're a game out of Jacksonville, which it could go any way.
Their last 3 is so much easier than the Texans' last 3. Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee. The Texans have the Browns, the Titans, and the Colts.
It's the next 2 that's really going to be interesting. And I think this week will be the telling one. They're not beating Baltimore, I don't think. No. You never know. So it'll be interesting to see. It is the Texans wrap here. If you were making percentages, and I know ESPN has these percentages, what percentage would you give the Texans making the playoffs?
Oh, it's
5.
Like what the actual Vegas odds are and how I feel. Like I feel higher than the Vegas odds. The Vegas odds are about 60-ish or so, maybe a little, with a couple percentage points here or there. I'm at like 80%. I feel really good about the opponents that they have. I don't actually feel that good about the Indianapolis Colts keeping pace with the Texans. Like I don't see the Colts continuing to win really close games, sneaking them out like they have the past few weeks. And like, are they going to go toe to toe with Atlanta in Atlanta? On any given week, Atlanta's got a little bit of offensive explosion to them. Like the Steelers, we just saw what Jake Browning did. The Colts got to go to Cincinnati this week. So it's like, I mean, if Browning's putting something close to that on the table, like are the Colts going to go blow for blow with them? The Raiders in the next to last week, whatever. But like, I don't believe the Colts are hanging around. I believe in the Jaguars kind of sticking in.
I'm not sleeping on the Bengals in this cluster with the way that they're playing and with the way Browning's playing. I know it's kind of a long shot, but I mean, they're sitting at 6-6. They're right there. They're right there. I'm not sleeping on the Bengals. When you look at Cleveland and you look at Pittsburgh, I'm not sleeping on Cincinnati if this guy's going to play this way.
The best part is you'll basically never face Cincinnati, and if you get to the point where they're tied with you, you've already beat them. You own the tiebreaker with them. So I would love for Cincinnati to get rolling because they play the Colts, they play the Steelers, and they play the Browns, all teams that are right there in the thick of things with you.
Yeah.
So if the Bengals get rolling, be my guest. Push the Texans up to the 6 or the 5 spot in the wild card situation.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's going to be interesting. I think it's so even that these teams are going to beat up on each other, for sure. How do the Texans replace Tank Dell? I had 3 options. Is it the run game? I can't. Let me try to say that with a straight face.
What run game?
Run game.
I quit. I quit on the run game this week.
Is it more weapons, or is it Will Anderson and Derek Stingley being elite, and maybe the defense picking up some of the void left by Tank Dell?
Man, there's no replacing Tank Dell. There's nobody that can replicate what he does. So the way you go about figuring out how to make the offense work without him is very much, who do I trust? How can I get things working on schedule, in rhythm? Like, the explosive plays are probably go way down without Tank Dell. You're going to see a lot more, hey, it's 3rd and 4. Robert Woods runs a 5-yard route, turns around, and CJ Stroud throws in the ball. Like some of the stuff we saw early on in the season, they're going to have to get in a rhythm. They can't run the ball. They're not going to run the ball. Like, Denver was the chance to run the football. Denver came into that game allowing 5.5 yards per carry, and the Texans running backs averaged less than 3 yards per carry in the game. Like, yeah. They're not going to.
Dameon Pierce for some reason. I don't know what it is, but they love him.
They're not going to run the football.
Yeah, and 21 yards on that one carry.
And so, to your point, I like the defensive aspect of it. And Grenard said this today. He said, if we do our job better, the offense has to score less points to win. And so, I mean, they are never happy. Grenard today, somebody told him that they were perfect on 3rd down. And he said, oh, okay, well, we probably should have taken the ball away on 2nd down then. Like, it was kind of a funny thing. Like, that defense has got to be probably a little bit better than it has been from a key points off the scoreboard standpoint, because they're just not going to be able to score as much. Like, the potential of the offense comes down without Tank Dell. And I know we'd love to just throw, like, Xavier Hutchinson's not replacing Tank Dell's stuff. Noah Brown is not replacing Tank Dell because he doesn't do the same exact thing that Dell does, and Mechie's not doing that. But how you divvy up plays that were supposed to go to Tank is going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch. Texans very much in the mix. Jacksonville, we're going to keep an eye on this Trevor Lawrence announcement. The next 2 weeks are going to be the most telling. Texans got the Jets and the dumpster fire. They're going to have the Titans without Jeffrey Simmons, with the Titans wearing the old Oilers uniform. So I think the next 2 weeks, you mentioned the Jags last 3, that's going to be where it shapes up. But the playoff mix is fun. All these teams are playing each other. Stutes, appreciate you for rolling through. This has been an interesting post-show wrap. Got the wifey out of town, so I got my favorite show killer here killing the show. Tell the people where they can find you, and I appreciate you for rolling through.
The best is going to be when you're sitting there and you're old and gray, and you'll probably grow a really gray goatee, and your daughter's got all her friends over, and you're like, come here, let me show you something on the YouTubes. And then you show them this episode.
Nah, she is now she's just chilling. If you would have just acted like this from the beginning, we would have been okay. Do you think
that?
Do you think the Texans are going to win the division? You think Trevor Lawrence is really hurt?
Oh, I think I saw a no there.
She's got a little smile. All right, man. Appreciate you for coming through.
Can we get a thumbs up for the baby on the video? Thumbs up for the baby.
Hey, appreciate everyone for coming through. This has been the post-show wrap. Got In the Loop tomorrow, 10 a.m., Sports Radio 610. We'll get more into this Trevor Lawrence thing. We got John McClain coming through. Look, man, the content don't stop. No excuses for you folks. I've been doing this for 15 months on top of the gig. This is what we do. We do the post-show wrap, whether I got my show killer or not, we're going to handle it. Now, of course, she's just going to be calm as heck and chilling. Appreciate you for coming through. Trevor Lawrence down. Texans very much in the mix. Jets, a big disaster. Already got some lab work coming on. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Have a good one.
It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.